In 2017, my in-laws decided they wanted to take a trip to Italy, which was a surprise given that my father-in-law had never left the United States, and my mother-in-law had not done so in decades, having taken a trip to Europe in high school, but otherwise, nothing. Nevertheless, we worked everything out, and after I finished my time at Spiel in late October, I traveled to Rome and met my family there, where we spent a week in Rome, took a side trip to Isernia, which is where the Formicelli family is from. We decided to do it again the next year. So in 2018, we went to Florence, which is a fabulous city to walk around in. If you ever get the chance to do so, I recommend it. 2019, we decided, well, we'll wait. We'll do something in 2020. And those plans did not work out, for various reasons. Instead, I was only able to travel to Italy thanks to my time playing The Castles of Tuscany, a Stefan Feld design published by Alea, which is the strategy game brand for Ravensburger. This is a 2 to 4 player game in which, in theory, you are princes in the 15th century in the Tuscan region, and you are building up your region to make yourself look good, I suppose. The story is pretty flimsy in terms of what you're doing here, and mostly it boils down to doing things to get points, because otherwise a lot of the stuff that you're doing is incredibly abstracted, and you might as well just say you are drawing cards to put hexagonal tiles on a board, because anything beyond that you're trying to build up is not really going to cut it with what you're actually doing in the game. Let me show you how this works. What you see before you is a mixture of shared and personal components. Each player gets a player board, and at the top of this board, they will shuffle their 21 tiles face down and create 3 stacks of 7 tiles. You will have a region that is comprised of 3 region boards labeled A, B, and C. The A's all have the same mixture of tiles on them, but in a different order. And you place these tiles together along their long sides in whichever way seems good to you, flipping them around as you wish. Place your starting dark green tile on one of the dark green spaces, and these are the only things that are specifically yours. You have a shared pool of 8 tiles. There are 8 different types of landscapes. You put up these tiles at random from some tan tiles. To give a random starting assortment, each player has the same assortment of tiles in their stacks, but they will be added to the board in a random order. You have goal tiles for whoever first covers all of a tile of a particular color. That player will score some points. You flip this over, and whoever does it again gets fewer points for doing it the second time, because we've already seen it once. It's not as impressive. Got some other components. You've got some bonus tiles, and you have a score track. Gameplay in the Castles of Tuscany is relatively straightforward. You start with a hand of 5 cards, and on a turn you take one of 3 actions. One possible action is to draw the top 2 region cards from the deck and add them to your hand. Look, I'm doing it again. It's that simple. Second possible action is to take a tile from the market and add it to your player board. So you choose any of the 8 tiles, put it on a space on your board, this space in particular, and then take the topmost tile of your leftmost stack and add it to the market. I can do this again next time, but I have no empty space on the board, so I'd have to throw this one away first in order to make room for the tile I chose. But that's just me wasting turns. Why would I do that? The third possible action is to take a tile on your player board and add it to your region. All the tiles that you add to your region must be touching, so initially I can place tiles only in these 6 spaces. To place a tile, you have to discard 2 cards of the color of the tile that you are placing, and then place that tile in a matching colored space. So I take 2 of these done cards, I put this tile here. If I don't have 2 of these, well, I could replace one of them with a matching pair of cards. So 1 done, 2 orange, or if I have nothing, I can have 2 light green and 2 orange. But now I'm spending 4 cards instead of 2 cards. That's not good. So I discard those 2 cards, I add this tile to my board, and because I have filled this area, which consists of only 1 hex space, I get 1 green point, moving my marker ahead. Let's say on the next turn I take the red tile. I am able to play the cards and place that because now this red is touching the other tiles in my area. This area of red is not complete, so I don't score any points. But if I were able to take this one next turn, and no one has taken any other turns apparently except drawing cards, I can now place this on the board again by discarding the proper cards. I have completed this 2 hex area, and that would net me 3 points. So the initial construction of your board is going to determine the scoring possibilities. I did not have to put these 3 orange together. I could have flipped the board like this instead and had smaller regions, which I could have filled more quickly, but given me fewer points. Those are trade-offs you have to make as you set up your board and as you start playing, because it is highly unlikely that people would just leave these red tiles for me in order to complete this area. It may not seem like there's much going on in the game at this point, but that is typical for Stefan Feld designs, where he gives you a short list of possible actions, and yet often one or more of those actions is really a half dozen different possible actions hidden as one. That was the case with 2020's Bonfire, another Stefan Feld design, and that is also the case for the Castles of Tuscany. When you place a tile onto your region board, not only do you score points if you complete an area, but you receive a bonus based on the color of the tile that you played. There's 8 colors of tiles and a different bonus for each of those 8 colors. In the case of the done tiles, you get to draw a yield card, and you get whatever bonus is shown on that card. In this case, drawing 2 region cards and adding them to your hand, so effectively a free action. Other rewards you might get are a green point, a red point, because green and red points are different. We'll talk about those a little bit later, along with a card. Or maybe you get a free worker, or maybe you get marble, maybe you get a hexagon, or 2 red points. Those are the possible things you will get from the yield deck. These are bonuses that you can also receive from other tiles. If you place an orange tile, you get a worker. Just pile the workers up here. A worker counts as a region card of the color of your choice. It's a joker. So if I'm trying to place a tile and I don't have the right color, I can spend a worker instead to cover that card. The marble lets you, which you get from placing a gray tile, can let you take another action immediately. So if I pick up a tile on a turn, and then I spend marble, I can take a different action. I can draw cards or play this, assuming I have the right cards to do so. Maybe I have 1 red card and my 1 worker. And now I'll put this down here. Okay, that's what the marble does. Gives you a different action. You can use at most 1 marble on a turn. The blue tiles that you place will get you this hexagon, which must go onto your player board, and this effectively serves as a joker tile. I can place this anywhere that is legal to play, assuming that I can discard the cards to do so, and it counts as a tile of that type. So if I put it here, I would get a marble, and if I put it here, I'd get a worker. If I put it on yellow, I draw 3 cards and add them to my hand. So that covers these. Light green tiles give you a bonus based on the different icons on the tile. It's effectively, you're putting crops down, and not only would I get a point for completing this, assuming this were a legal play, but I get a bonus because I don't have this type of crop in this area. It seems a little weird because it's only an area of size 1, but if I were to place this over here and then I add another tile, this one actually has 2 different types of things on it, I would not get points for this one because I already have this type of agriculture in this area. So you're getting bonus points for having different types of agriculture. That covers all these. The green one, the dark green one, when you place a dark green tile, you get to take any tile from here and immediately add it to your region and get the bonus for that tile. So you're effectively placing 2 tiles for 1. You do not get to do that with your starting tile. The red tile, the last one I'll talk about, and is generally the most desired one, at least in the half dozen games I've played. When you place a red tile on the board, you get to take one of these bonus action tiles and put it next to your board, which is going to modify what you get and what you get to do during the rest of the game. So if you have this tile, when you draw cards for an action, instead of drawing 2, now I'll draw 3. Well, I've placed 2 red cities here, red tiles. If I took this bonus for each of the red tiles I placed, I would draw 4 cards each time I draw cards as an action. I do not get the bonus for doing this. Okay? There are only 5 tiles of each type, and when they're all gone, well, then you have to choose something else. If you get this bonus tile, whenever you place a gray tile and get marble, you would get 2 marble, or I could get 3 or 4, depending on however many of these bonus tiles I want to put down there. I can get extra workers, so placing an orange tile gives me 2 workers now instead of 1. Or when I place a done tile, I now get 2 yield cards instead of 1, or maybe I get 3, or I get 4 as I did in one game. Finally, you have this spot here, which is worth 2 green points on its own, and it gives you an extra space to hold tiles. So you won't be stuck if I take the done tile that I can initially play, oh, but I really want a red one in reserve so I can place this city later and get a bonus. Maybe I have this already. Okay, now I can store a tile here. At the start of the game, each player drafts 1 tile, and that gives you a little engine, a little direction for what you're going to do and what you're going to focus on, and often what you choose is going to be based on your initial setup. The first time you play, you won't really know that. You won't have any idea what you're doing. But if you're looking at this initial setup of tiles, if I can backtrack here and put out everything that was initially out, I might look at this board here and say, look at this. I've got 3 orange tiles next to here and these 3 here. Maybe I want to start with a worker. And hopefully I have some orange cards in my hand. I can draft an orange one early. I can place this down and now I get 2 workers because I've got the bonus action. And now effectively I have 2 orange cards for the next tile that I'm going to place. If the orange is still there, I can draft this. If I don't have any more orange in my hand, I can spend these 2 as orange cards. And I place an orange, so I get 2. That seems pretty good. If this is still here, which someone should probably take away from me, I'll do it again. Place this here, spend these 2, get these back, and now I've completed this region for a quick 6 points. So what's the deal with the red and green points? Why am I differentiating between the two? Aside from yield cards, all the points that you score for placing tiles into a region and completing areas and collecting color bonuses is going to come in the form of green points, which you track on the exterior ring of the score track. The game lasts 3 passages, and the first passage ends the round that a player empties their leftmost stack. So if on my turn I take one of these tiles, I have to replace it with the topmost tile in my leftmost stack. This is now empty. We complete the round so that everyone has the same number of turns, and then we score for the passage by adding our green points to our red points. So I currently have 11 green points and 1 red point from this yield card. That means I will add 11 to 1 and get 12 red points. And then we continue the game. And the second passage ends the round that someone completes their second stack, which may be me or it may be someone else, just depends on the pace at which we're drawing cards and moving through the game. When someone does that, you again add your green points to the red track. When someone completes their third stack, we're going to finish that round, have 1 more complete round so that whoever triggered the end of the game by taking a tile has the chance to play that tile. You once again add green points to red points, and then there's some endgame scoring, which I'll talk about a bit later. And then you see who has the most red points, and that player wins. And that means that all the points that you collect during the first passage are going to be tripled by the end of the game. The use of the green and red scoring track seems a little wonky, but it makes sense because it allows for consistency with the rest of the rules. An area of size 1, 2, or 3 is always going to score 1, 3, or 6 points. And whether those points are tripled, or only doubled, or just scored once is up to you and how you play and what's available to you. Those choices start driving you from the very beginning of the game when you are setting up your region boards and how you want to construct things together. Where are you putting your starting tile? What's adjacent to those tiles? What's the size of the areas that you can possibly complete? Do you want to try lots of small areas so ideally you can just get them done? Or do you want to take a risk and make larger areas and hopefully the tiles will come up and the cards will come up that will allow you to complete them? Those choices are not always up to you because, of course, you are somewhat dependent upon the cards that you draw because there's 8 colors of cards. And yes, you can use pairs as jokers, but that can get expensive if you just never draw the thing you are desperately trying to complete instead of going elsewhere. Or maybe the tiles don't come up because all players have the same tiles. and then just come up randomly. And you don't know, if you're trying to complete a 3 orange area, whether that third orange is going to come up or whether someone else is going to take it ahead of you before you can get it. Maybe intentionally, or maybe just incidentally because they want to do their own thing with orange to get to another region beyond that. There's a lot of personal dynamics that come into play depending on how observant people are. You can definitely play the game with blinders where you are just focusing on your own region, not worrying about other people, and just trying to get your stuff done. But as you take a little broader look across the table and see what other people are trying to do, will often drive your choices, because often you're just like, I'm going to do something on this turn. I don't have a tile on my player board. I'm going to pick something. My cards, I've got a sort of range of what I can do. Is there a reason that I would want one thing more than another? Maybe you've got a plan in mind, but you're going to adjust based on what the other people are trying to take. That's where the color bonuses come into play too. Competition in the castles of Tuscany takes place primarily in 2 ways. One being a fight for tiles so that you can complete areas on your region. I might have a red tile sitting on deck and you see a tile here in the market. Well, either before or after I place this tile on the board, you may decide, yoink, I'm just going to take this and use it for myself. I wasn't really trying to get red, but I'm going to keep you from getting 3 points. That's not necessarily a big deal because you think that red tiles will show up in time. You obviously have to replace it with something off the top of your deck, which may or may not be red. It's not in this case. All right. Maybe I have to pivot. And I say, okay, I'm going to go for silver because there's another silver one here, or a gray one here, as the case may be. Flip over. All right, I place this, and now someone yoinks this away. All right, great. Well, eventually something's going to come up that ideally I can use depending on the cards in my hand. What really becomes important is the issue of timing in terms of completing an area. If I get down to a certain point, well, great. I can take this light green tile, and I'll still have a turn in order to place it on the board and complete that area and score those points so that those points will be doubled by scoring before the end of the second passage. If I get down here though, and I now want to take a gray, well, boom, I just trigger the end of the passage, and now we're going to score, and I don't get to put this on. I don't get my 3 points, which will be 6 points at the end. So you're watching for the timing of these little instances of where people can score and trying to thwart them so that they don't double and triple their points. You're at the whim of the flip of the tile because every player has the same tiles. You don't know what's going to come up. We've had many instances in our 6 games of the same color replacing the color taken. You thought you were stealing from something from someone, and it just shows up anyway. Now, one element that ties into this is looking at the board. Let me put up other boards here so you can see the basic colors of the tiles. You see that there are 5 orange and 5 green and 4 yellow, and so on. In your assortment of tiles, you have 1 fewer of each color than what's here. So I have only 3 yellow and 4 light green and 2 red, 1 dark green, because I start with 1 dark green, 1 blue. So you have a shortage of colors in your own mix, and you don't know the order in which other tiles are coming out. Yes, you start with some neutral tiles, but typically you start with 8 neutral tiles, and they are never replaced with other neutral tiles. They're only going to be replaced with tiles from player boards, which means there aren't enough tiles for everyone to complete the blue or everyone to complete the red or orange or whatever. The only time you bring out more of these tiles is if you get 5 tiles of the same type in the pool. Let's say these were actually light green, then you pull out all the light green and you turn up 5 new tiles. That's the only time you draw again from these, so often you will just have a shortage for what you're trying to complete just because they're at the bottom of someone's deck and you just haven't got to them yet. So you have these competition over when you're going to complete things. And in theory, you can complete everything, but practically, no, you can't, depending on what other people are trying to collect. Now, tying in with that are the color bonus tiles, where you have 8 tiles, 1 for each color. They have a point total, 2 to 4 at the bottom. Okay, so if you were the first player to cover all 5 light green tiles, you are going to get a 4-point bonus. You then flip this over, and the player who does it second gets 2 points. All the rest of these are just 1 point for everything else. second place is very sad. So if you look at my setup here, I might not have had an optimal setup for a scoring bonus because, yes, I got this 3 orange here to get this big point score that will then be tripled by the end of the game, but the other 2 orange are at the periphery and I haven't been building out this way at all. I have many tiles to go before I can get to this one or this one. What can I complete? Blue, except we've had no blue tiles. Red, except red's far away. There's not much I can do. Maybe I could have set my board up this way so that orange would be closer, but now the dark green is far away, and the dark green is so sweet to get because then you get a bonus tile, which this helps you complete something else. Everything is interrelated here, so you're fighting for the tiles to complete them, and you're fighting for the bonuses. Once someone gets the second place bonus, you just throw that tile away, and no one gets it again. So in a 2-player game, not as big a deal because at worst you can get second. In a 3 and 4-player game though, you start seeing things just get taken away and you give up on those colors. They just don't matter anymore. I played the Castles of Tuscany 6 times on our review copy from Ravensburger, twice each with 2, 3, and 4 players. And in 5 of those 6 games, the player who was ahead in green points at the end of the first passage won. They took an early lead and maintained that lead over the course of the game and ended up winning. And I think there are 3 things that you can think when you hear something like that. One is that the game is broken and no one should bother playing it. Maybe just play the first third and then call it at that point. You could do that, but 6 games is not really much data in terms of deciding whether something is broken along those lines or not. Second thing, well, if the player who's going to be ahead after the first third wins, what can I do to be that player? What choices am I making with the setup of my region board and how I'm putting tiles out that is going to maximize my score in that first third? I don't know if we really focused that much on it. We just thought maybe it's an engine building game because you're grabbing bonus action tiles and sort of moving in a particular direction over the course of the game. But that first third is more important than perhaps in other games where usually things escalate over time, you get more power, things are building up, and you have these huge actions such as Bonfire, which I mentioned earlier, which is very much more about building things up so you can do these huge turns where you're actually lighting the bonfires, which is going to get you lots of points at the end of the game. The Castles of Tuscany front loads the action a bit more, where you have to work a lot to maximize that score because those points are being compounded, but you're also building an engine thanks to the bonus tiles you're acquiring through the red city tiles, and that's building an engine, but those points aren't going to add up as much as those initial ones, or rather they will, but the thing is you're adding on to what's already there. So of course if you're starting from a higher point than someone else after the first passage and you rise at the same rate, well then you're still ahead. So you have to push in the first third of the game to see how much you can complete. And of course you have a stack of only 7 tiles in that leftmost stack. You're going to place probably at most 6 of them on the board, depending on whether you get a dark green tile that lets you place an extra tile immediately. Maybe that's going to happen. So you don't have that many tiles that are going to go on the board in that first third. How are you going to maximize what you do? To some degree, you are a victim of luck. You don't know which tiles are going to be available. You have to make the best choices out of what's given to you and what you draw. There is a rather, I want to say a high luck factor, but there is a luck factor in terms of which tiles get revealed, which cards you have available to you. And of course, how other people have set up their boards. If I have a large orange region and someone else also has an orange region and we're going to be competing for orange tiles, that's not good. But you're supposed to set up your region board without looking at other people. And so that might happen. That's just going to be a situation that will occur in some games. Now, third conclusion you might think of hearing that result, well, not all of the games were won by the player who's ahead after the first third. And in fact, it was the 6th game we played where the player who was ahead after the first third did not win. So someone came back and built a better engine out of what was going later, completing areas, grabbing the color bonuses, and doing what they could so that they could increase and win. So maybe we're just learning how to play the game now after a half dozen plays, because some people were in all 6 of those games and some were in 4 of the games, and then a couple were just in the 4. This is how it worked out. So maybe it just takes a bit of experience to really figure out how to do things. It is a little tricky because the game is very simple. It does have a luck factor in terms of what you're drawing, but you are making choices that are trying to put everything together. And I think you can definitely learn how to anticipate how the game might play out when you're looking at your region board and seeing what you're trying to do and how you're fighting against other people to try to get things done. It does take a bit of experience. You have the 5 bonus action tiles, and 2 of the tiles seem really obvious and good. And those are the drawing extra cards and the space for an extra region tile. The space for the region tile comes with a 2 green point bonus. So of course that's 6 points by the end of the game. That seems like an obvious thing to grab at the beginning. Also because you now have an extra space to put a tile in, so you can take a tile that someone else wants and you just sort of pocket it for a little bit. Maybe you can't use it immediately, but you kept them from getting it and now you put it aside. Although, of course, that just means you're not putting it on the board, which is ideally getting you points and doing other things to further your growth. The grabbing an extra card action tile seems great because, of course, if I can take 2 actions to draw 3 cards each time, that's the same thing as 3 actions to draw 2 cards each time, which means I'm taking fewer actions to get the same thing done. And in this game, actions are everything. Actions are your life, your turn, your time, what you're trying to do. And if I can do things better, more efficiently, as you might think of, then that's usually going to turn out better for you in the end. The other tiles are trickier to use because they are region dependent, whereas those 2 are not. If you're trying to use marble, you need to have those gray spaces available to you and the gray tiles to make use of the marble, to have that marble available to you. Same thing for the orange tiles to get workers, or the done tiles to get the yield cards. You have to build your region board so that those tiles are close, those areas are close to your starting location, and then hopefully you're going to have tiles that let you take advantage of that. It's a little harder to set up, and of course you don't know which tiles are coming. One thing that we have missed, I think, in all of our games is that you're supposed to set up your region board. You look at the cards in your hand, your starting 5 cards, you set up the region board, determine where you're going to start, choose your bonuses, and then you reveal the 8 mystery tiles, the 8 starting tiles at random. We have typically been putting out those tiles first, which means we get a little more information when deciding how to set up our region boards. If you did it the way it's described in the rules, in the English rules, then you're actually turning over those tiles last, and I have to set up my board, and then maybe we flip it over and, oop, there's no orange tiles at all. Well, great. I hope to build for this orange region, but maybe it's not going to happen at all. I don't know if that makes a big difference, but I've noticed while rereading the rules before doing this video, whoops, this one little detail that we messed up. In any case, we're definitely figuring out better how to put things together and have a little less stuff left over at the end of the game. Now, at the end of the game, you get bonuses. Every thing on your player board, whether a worker or a marble or a region tile, is worth a point. And every 3 cards you have in your hand is worth a point. Now, in the early game, the first 2/3 of the game, ideally you're going to take these resources and turn them into more points. Once you gain that marble or that worker, it's a point sitting on your player board. And so you're spending that point to ideally do something better with it. If I'm spending a worker as a card, am I just filling one area and getting 1 point? I'm just changing 1 point for another point? And yes, I get a bonus from playing a region tile, but is that really useful? Would it be better to hold on to that worker and possibly draw cards and then end up with the right cards and save that worker for the right moment? Or do I just need workers early and then I just fade them off and I don't worry about workers anymore because it doesn't matter? I want to take those early points and then compound them over time by using them most effectively. Where later in the game, or maybe I just get workers and I just pile them up there, because why waste time spending a point to get a point? It's still not clear to me exactly how that transfer works. Each marble is worth a point at the end of the game. So do I spend that marble to take an extra action that is going to lead to something more? What's the real cost effect that I'm getting out of that? This is really like boiling down this design to its core. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, the setting and the thematic nature of it, where I'm a prince doing blah blah, it just washes away very quickly. And you're just working more baldly with the resources in hand, the cards, the tiles, and the wooden bits, and they're all just points you're trying to translate in your head, right? See the green numbers flowing down the screen where it's just points going through here. There's one other question with the rulebook. Let me point this out. The Castles of Tuscany has 5 rulebooks included: Spanish, Italian, French, German, and English, and 4 of these 5 rulebooks are very similar. Everyone but the English one. And you start seeing the differences from the first page when you look at them describing bonus tiles, whereas in the English rulebook it just says square tiles. When you actually open the rulebooks, you'll see that the non-English ones start talking, after the setup of all the components, start talking about what the flow of the game is like. A game is going to last 3 passages, and at the end of a passage you're going to have a scoring. And here's what you're going to do on a turn. You're going to draw cards, take a tile, place a tile. That's the same in all 3 of these, whereas in the English one you start talking about the player board. And you get to the playing of the game later, where it says, I will point out, the game runs over 3 rounds, which is different than a passage. If you go here to see the 3 passages, you're going to see the passage ends at the end of the round in which a player has emptied their leftmost stack. Whereas in the English rules, players continue around the table, and the first round ends at the end of the turn, when any player has removed all of the hextiles from their leftmost stack. Those are different, because one ends immediately, the English one ends immediately as soon as one player has taken their last tile from the stack, which means the first player will more likely be the player to do that, cheating a turn from each other player, whereas in the German rules, no, it ends at the end of the round so that all players have the same number of turns. So there's slight but important differences in a game with relatively few rules. In addition, the use of the marble described as you can take an extra action, but it mentions you must take a different action. Again, it's hard to look at this upside down in my non-native language and find this, but it's talking about ein anderes action, where it's another action, a different one. It gives an example, whereas the English one very specifically changes it, so it says you can also duplicate an action, whereas the other languages do not seem to have that. It's all another action, not the same one. I can't just take tiles repeatedly or place tiles all at once. It has to be a different thing. There's little differences throughout, and it seems a bit odd just to have those differences, and it becomes almost like you're playing different games. And of course, if you're playing only on the English rules, yes, it will seem unfair if the player who is ahead after the first scoring actually took more turns than other players. Well, of course they're going to be ahead, because other players didn't get to respond and play as fairly as the other people. And this wraps my overview of the Castles of Tuscany, which again I've played 6 times, which in one sense feels like a fair amount of experience, and in another sense feels like practically nothing. It's hard to draw a conclusion sometimes based on what I feel is the right number of plays to really get my hands around a title. I feel like I'm just getting it now, real sense of how to put everything together and respond to the randomness that you encounter. This fell design feels like it has a higher luck element, maybe just because it has a higher randomness element in the tiles that are being flipped over and the cards that you're drawing, and of course the initial region board setup where possibly you end up competing for someone because I was trying to get certain color bonuses and well, it turned out you were trying to do the same, whereas someone else is not competing at all for how they've set up their board. That's just how the game is going to work out sometimes. And it's really interesting to see as we played more, where we started really getting the player dynamics of us interacting more with one another, where in one game in particular we had a real standoff where people just did not want to take a tile at the risk of revealing something that the other player wanted. These two players just drew cards. I forget, it was like 4 or 5 turns. They just drew cards, hoping that the other 2 people in the game might flip over the tile that they needed. Although, of course, the 2 who were competing were one after another. So one player had 2 possible flips come up before their turn came again, but nope, no one flipped it, and they just drew and drew and drew, and then someone finally broke and did something else. It was in the 3rd passage of the game, and so if you're drawing cards, well, that's roughly a point that you're getting each time. So if nothing else, you're going to draw cards and get a point, get a point, get a point. It's a pretty lame way to spend a turn, but they got in this weird dynamic where they were competing for that. And you have a little more look ahead in the game as you get more experience with it, where you can start seeing these choke points come up here, where initially you're trying to just complete areas and get those points, but you're seeing what other people are working towards completing in terms of the color bonus, and whether you've got an edge on them in the race to do that. Where are you sitting relative to them in the player count, player order around the table? How many more tiles do you need? How many spaces do you have? How many cards in your hand do you have? Do you have the ammunition in order to deliver with whatever tiles you get? It's, it changes every time you play. So it's interesting to see those dynamics, and it matters just because, well, it's not just you doing your thing on your own. You are not competing in isolation. It matters what the other players are doing and how you respond to that. So there you go. Half dozen plays. We'll see how many more come in the future.